It's still going to take a lot of time to get rid of all those years of telling yourself that gaining weight was bad before you then realise gaining weight's not a bad thing at all. Gaining weight for many people can actually be a really good thing. It can actually be really healthy, and it can actually help guide you towards your goals rather than take you further away from them as you might often think. A name we haven't looked at for a little while now, and her name I'm probably going to butcher because I always do. I believe it's pronounced Sana. Basically, my weight gain journey and how I got my period back. Considering 91% of my audience are women, I think this would be quite an appropriate video to actually cover and discuss maybe a few things that maybe aren't typically discussed in the fitness realm.
My period has been going on and off, I feel, ever since I started modeling when I was 18. I lost it for a couple of years, being in the industry, always being jet lagged, probably also being very, very skinny.
I kind of mentioned this in the context of like athletes, but it actually applies to models as well, because again, weight is something they often have to manage. Is that there is a big difference between health and performance, and they're usually either end of the spectrum. If you want to perform to your highest capabilities, sometimes you actually have to sacrifice health to do so. So a lot of long distance runners and track athletes will, to perform to such a high level, push themselves so hard, maintain a lean physique, which then in turn can actually result in them losing their periods. So they're sacrificing health to optimize their performance for what they're trying to achieve. And the same thing, like I said, does apply to models. A lot of them have to manage their weight and maintain a very lean physique. So in doing so, they're likely probably negatively impacting their hormones, which then can often result in loss of periods. That paired with obviously being very low body fat percentage, which again goes into hormones, that being paired with stress and so many other considering factors. Again, to perform at that level, it's no surprise that health has been sacrificed.
I have always had a very low fat percentage. Even as a young kid, I've been an athlete before, obviously throughout the whole modeling world. Like, it's really hard for me to actually gain a lot of weight and gain a lot of muscle.
See, this almost goes into the realm of like potentially body types to an extent, which like somatotypes, which categorically are a myth, they don't exist. The thing is, when it comes to hard to gain weight, how so? Because essentially the same rules will apply as calorie surplus. Essentially you have to consume more than you're expending. Same when it comes to building muscle. To optimize how much muscle you're building, you likely need to make sure you're eating enough calories to then fuel that growth. Again, it very much comes down to define hard to gain weight. So I can assume that this individual is probably fairly tall. When you think model, you often tend to link to tall, perhaps. And reality is if you are taller, you are likely going to have a higher BMR. Height is actually a massive contributing factor to how many calories you will burn at rest. As this individual might be quite tall, it means their maintenance calories are probably going to be a bit higher than they would typically expect, which means they're probably going to have to eat more to gain weight. But the premise of gaining weight still remains, which is eat more than you burn. People often have this idea of I eat so much food but I can't gain weight. The reality is you probably aren't eating quite as much as you think you are. And if you are eating as much as you think you are and you're not gaining weight, then you're not in a surplus and you unfortunately need to eat more.
So I set a goal for myself to get at least 130 grams of protein a day. I actually started to kind of like track this a little bit on my app. You also see with like my favorite meals and dishes, like the nutrients underneath. I started to realize I was not getting anywhere near 130 grams of protein.
This individual is a very big fan of intuitive eating, which I respect and appreciate. And oftentimes when people do adopt that approach, they think they might have a great idea of what they're actually consuming, let's say calorie-wise, but then say, I eat so much but I can't gain weight, because they probably weren't as accurate as they thought they were. And now we're hearing her state, after basically speaking about being an intuitive eater and struggling to gain weight, that she's eating nowhere near as much protein as she thought she was, therefore indicates she also probably wasn't eating quite as much food or calories as she thought she was, which then explains the difficulty gaining weight.
After doing that, after adding more protein into my diet, I got my period back literally after 8 weeks, so 2 months. I also think the third thing is like knowing when to rest is so important. Your body needs to be out of a fight or flight modus.
Yeah, honestly, very valid things. So the protein intake contributing to maybe bringing the period back might actually link back to the amount of food being eaten as well. Increase in caloric intake, give your body more fuel, more energy, which then can link to hopefully maybe an increase in body weight, thus potentially a healthier body fat percentage, which then can also link over to hormonal health as well, thus potentially contributing to bring the period back. But also another thing that people often do neglect is stress management. If you are very stressed, maybe not sleepy enough, maybe overworked, maybe anxious, so many things. How's that going to impact your hormones as well? Sleep is a massive regulating factor for hormones. If you're not sleeping enough because you're anxious, your quality of sleep is bad because you're stressed, whatever it may be, you're not unwinding, sleep's going to be impacted, thus hormone regulation is going to be impacted. And then again, stress in general, when your hormones are all over the place, with stress hormones coming into the mix, you're also throwing things out of whack and throwing things off balance, which then in turn could contribute to the loss of period as well. So there are many things that kind of go into it. It seems like this is almost like a cocktail for disaster, where you've got low body fat percentage, probably not consuming enough food, high stress levels, all of these factors coming into play and kind of hitting into each other, thus contributing to the hormonal health issues and in general potentially health issues as well, which are then resulting in the loss of period. So again, it does make sense. It really does. And are you surprised when you come from a modeling and athletic background where you are so driven by performance, are you surprised that health actually subconsciously maybe takes a backseat and is potentially even negatively impacted along that journey? Very quickly, I've got to throw it out there. Links down below, you'll find a few things. You'll find the link to apply to work with myself, Ryder or Beth on a one-to-one coaching basis, where we will help coach you towards your goals, whatever they may be. You'll also find the link to sign up for the TFNL group coaching, which is run through Train Heroic and costs less than your Netflix subscription, in which you can embark on a training program that I've created for the community, train alongside people, comment, communicate, and talk to other people about the program, ask any questions, and maybe even send some form videos in there for some analysis. And you also got the link to the TFNL workout guides, which are essentially big, juicy fitness resources with loads of information about building muscle, losing fat, nutrition, mental health is thrown into there as well, which also include multiple months of programming for whether you want to work out at home or at the gym. There's options for everyone. So if any of those tickle your pickle, have a gander down below in the description and let me know what's occurring.
During gaining weight, for me, the hardest thing is that your body is just changing and you're like just not used to it. And I get the feeling when you want to put your jeans on and it doesn't fit and it's just like, I don't know, your body's changing, right?
Again, it's actually really valid. Genuinely, a really good point that she's speaking about here, which a lot of people neglect to speak about, is how mentally and psychologically taxing it can be to gain weight. Everyone has this idea of, oh, it's amazing, just gain weight, get bigger, whatever it may be, whatever your goals might be, gain weight. But for a lot of people, including myself, to be honest, gaining weight can be a massive psychological hindrance because you are seeing your body change. You're not as defined as you maybe used to be. Clothes aren't fitting quite how they used to fit. And then all of these things add up to making you potentially feel certain ways. You might feel fat, you might feel inadequate, you might feel like a slob, you might feel like a failure, you might even feel guilty for being able to eat more food and you're gaining weight in the process, which you have for many years associated as a negative. For so many years you thought, because I'm an athlete or because I'm a woman perhaps, or because I'm whatever I am, I shouldn't gain weight because it doesn't fit society's idea of beautiful, normal, healthy, attractive, whatever it may be. And then once you start gaining weight, because you've maybe set aside your sport, or because you've maybe set aside societal pressures, or maybe because it's for your health, or because it's maybe part of your new sport, whatever it may be, it's still going to take a lot of time to get rid of all those years of telling yourself that gaining weight was bad before you then realize gaining weight's not a bad thing at all. Gaining weight for many people can actually be a really good thing. It can actually be really healthy and it can actually help guide you towards your goals rather than take you further away from them as you might often think. All I say when it comes to gaining weight is feeling these ways is normal. Just because we feel something doesn't mean it's right. When I gain weight, I often feel that way as well. Like, oh, I'm losing definition, I'm getting fatter, I'm like this, I feel a bit crappier, I don't look as lean, all these things. But then when I lose weight, I feel the same thing. Oh, I'm getting smaller, I'm getting weaker, I'm not as big anymore, I'm losing my muscle mass. So whatever way you go, there is going to be some kind of subconscious voice telling you that you're doing something wrong, to which you got to try your best. Just say, look, I'm going to endure this temporary pain, which is what my brain is telling me is wrong, for the light at the end of the tunnel, which is achieving the goal that's more important to me. How I feel then and what I want to achieve in the future along this journey is more important than how I feel right now. The long term is more important than my short term. So I will take a short term sacrifice for a long term and potentially even lifelong gain, which could result in a really healthy lifestyle change. So yeah, honestly, I think psychologically there's a massive thing behind gaining weight, and I'm not surprised that so many of you probably find it really hard to do so, and are actually, to be honest, probably quite scared to do so, because it's a scary thing. For so many years you've been told that gaining weight's a bad thing. Is potentially being healthier ever a bad thing? Is potentially being happier ever a bad thing? Is potentially performing better and achieving a goal that might be really important to you, is that a bad thing? That's kind of how you have to look at it, is that whatever you're doing, like gaining weight, it might be because it's the right thing for you. But flip around doesn't mean everyone has to. Maybe you're in a position where you want to lose weight. Maybe losing weight helps you get towards your goals. Maybe losing weight might make you happier. Maybe losing weight might actually be healthier for you, in which case they're all valid as well. Just remember, it's never going to be a linear process. There will be ups, there will be downs, there will be psychological and mental battles you have to overcome to achieve the goal. But I can assure you, whatever you're working towards will be worth it in the end. And to get there, you have to just ensure you don't give up. Yes, you will have setbacks. Yes, you will take a few steps back sometimes, and that's normal. No one's perfectly consistent, and progress is rarely linear. You take a few steps back to recalibrate and remember what you're doing and why you're doing it, to then take more steps forward. But yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a tangent that you probably didn't ask for, so I do apologise for that. Again, just my quick thoughts and opinions about weight gain and bringing back your period that might apply to some of you and might actually help some of you. Who knows? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. But until the next one, thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating my very unexpected tangent at the end there, and thank you for tolerating the video.